The Pittsburgh Steelers are victorious in week one, knocking off the Atlanta Falcons 18-10. Welcome into the Steelers postgame show. My name is Mark Bergin. Let's pay some bills right off the top. Today's episode brought to you by betonline.ag. Football season is underway. If you want to get in on the action, betonline.ag is the place to do it. You can use our promo code Bleav, that's BLEAV, to get started over at betonline.ag. BetOnline, the game starts here. Steelers victorious 18-10. It is a field goal fest. Chris Boswell with 6 field goals today. He also had a punt when Cameron Johnston leaves the game with an injury. And as good as TJ Watt was today, he was my team MVP today. 6 field goals. I think he had 3 makes from 50 yards plus. He's as good of a kicker as there is in the league, maybe other than Justin Tucker, and I think he could give Justin Tucker a run for his money. I thought he was the Steelers' best player today, and he provided the difference. Steelers don't score a touchdown, but they're able to win a ball control game, 3 takeaways from the defense. And I'm going to say this too. If the offense can even get to be average and the Steelers players avoid injuries, we're talking about maybe the best defensive unit in all of football. They were everywhere today, and you have to keep in mind that this Falcons team, guided by Kirk Cousins, I know Cousins is coming back from that Achilles injury, but this is supposed to be one of the best offenses in the NFL. I understand the Falcons are in a weak NFC South division, but Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, thought the Steelers defense held all of those players well in check today. So if you can get the offense right, I thought that this defense was absolutely spectacular today. And they didn't give up a point in the second half, shutting out the Atlanta Falcons in the second half of this game. I thought that the Falcons were couldn't do anything. And that's why towards the end of the game, where the Steelers are up 5 points and they're trying to score a touchdown to make it a 2-score game, I was okay with it. There looked to be a bad exchange between Fields and Zach Frazier on that 4th and 1 where they don't convert. But it's like, if the Falcons are going to drive down the length of the field to score a touchdown, they haven't done it at all in the second half. So I was okay with that instead of settling for the field goal, which would have put you up 8. The next drive, they do settle for a field goal. And Scotty Miller was on the hold there too because Cameron Johnston left the game with an injury. I don't know if we'll see Johnston next week. So the Steelers might have to sign a punter in week 2 against the Broncos. But Boswell today also had the punt when Johnston went down. That could have been really bad, and it was great coverage by the Steelers punt team. Boswell was the MVP of this game and what I'll call the Steelers field goal fest in a win over the Atlanta Falcons. Not the prettiest game in the world, but you win the turnover battle, you win the running game, you win time of possession, you're going to win some football games. I thought Fields settled in. I want to see some of the quarterback center exchanges get cleaned up. I understand, though, that we didn't really know that Fields was even going to be the starter until, Thursday, when there were reports that Russell Wilson was still dealing with the lingering calf issue. And so long as the Steelers continue to win, I'm going to start Fields, and here's the reason why. With issues along the offensive line right now, you've got a rookie center in Zach Frazier. And so the injury to Nate Herbig, who was supposed to be the starter, he's out. Isaiah Seumalo, who's your best offensive lineman, did not play today. Spencer Anderson was in there at the guard position. To help negate that pass rush, you can rely on Fields' mobility versus Russell Wilson at this stage in his career in year 13 is going to be more of a pocket guy. And that's not to say that Wilson doesn't have mobility at this point in his career, but if you have injuries along your offensive line, the way to negate that is to have a guy back there who's able to make guys miss. And I look at what Fields did today, 17 of 23, 156 yards through the air, 2 sacks, but 14 carries for 57 yards. Now, I don't think he's going to be able to run the ball 14, 15 times a game, every single game, but that's what dictated and necessitated to win today's game. And you get 41 carries for 137 yards on the ground. only 3.3 yards per carry. That has to improve as well. But that's what it took to win today's game. And I thought Fields played a better game than Kirk Cousins did today. And a large part of that was because he did not turn the ball over. Yes, those center quarterback exchanges need to improve. We saw it on the very first play of the game, something I wanted to see left behind in the preseason. But it's something where the Steelers didn't actually lose the ball, and they dominated time of possession. They had the ball for more than 35 minutes today. We saw it in the first half where it was like, gosh, can they just punch one into the end zone? And I think that will come with this offense led by Arthur Smith, right? But that's what dictated today's game, where it was like, if they can maintain that in the second half, they're going to win the football game. And that's exactly what happened. TJ Watt off the edge. He's coming off a year where he led the NFL on sacks. We might be talking about another Defensive Player of the Year for him, award for him. I thought he was terrific, and I thought the refs in this game were terrible. I thought they were absolutely terrible for the Steelers because you had two huge plays negated by the referees in this game that could have gone the Steelers' way. And I think it was 2 strip sack fumbles that Watt had that got called back for penalties. If you go back and watch the replay of one of them, Watt perfectly times his jump to where he's moving just before the ball snaps, but it didn't look like he crossed into the neutral zone. And the Steelers get called for a penalty, and that was negated. I also thought that the offensive pass interference against George Pickens, he did push off the defensive back. I will concede that. But I have seen receivers get away with way worse in this league. It was very subtle. So if you're going to call that, that's got to be universal. That has to be addressed on both sides. And then is that how refs are going to referee games throughout the course of this season? I thought that Pickens had a nice connection today with Justin Fields. I thought they got going a little bit. And I think the next step of all of this is actually scoring touchdowns. And what you're going to do when another team takes away Pickens is your best option. But that's what I saw today from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I was very impressed with this defensive unit. A huge play on the very first drive of the game. Falcons are driving down the field. How about the rookie Peyton Wilson making a tackle of Bijan Robinson before he can score a touchdown? The Falcons have to settle for 3. It's plays like that that make the difference between winning and losing in this league. And I thought that play on the very first drive of the game and the Falcons had to settle for a field goal was huge. And especially if points are going to be a premium, because this offense wasn't great today, but you win time of possession, you win the turnover battle 3-0. And I think in future weeks, you're able to score it with your red zone opportunities. You're able to score with your red zone opportunities. And then, I mean, I was thinking about this during the game of what this defense can do given the pass rush, which just took over this game. Watt, Highsmith, Cam Hayward and Montravius Adams had a sack. What they can do with a lead, with a 2-score lead, when you know that the other team has to throw the ball, this defense, it can be very, very good, but you got to build that lead. What they can do when you have the lead and the other team is forced to pass the football because there's not a lot of time left. That excites me. That absolutely excites me. And I thought TJ Watt was prolific today, but Chris Boswell, 6 field goals. He had 3 from 50 plus, was just outstanding today. And you're able to get a win on the road. And you start out the season 1-0, and you go from there. And you got Denver next week. Even if Russell's able to go until Justin Fields lose, I would keep him out there. I would at this point. Because I think that there's things that you can build upon from what he did in today's game. It wasn't perfect, but he adds an element to the offense with his running ability to where he looked uncomfortable to start this game. But even on that first drive where fumbled first snap, misses Van Jefferson on what should be an easy pitch and catch for a first down, is able to pick up the first down with his legs on the very next play on a 3rd and 8. after a timeout on the first drive. It did not start well for Justin Fields today, but he's able to weather the storm, and he didn't have any turnovers today, and he did what he needed to do to win the game. And that's what it takes for the quarterback position in this league. And make sure to say, Russell Wilson, you can get your calf right to where the Steelers are likely going to need both guys at some point this season. It's just the reality of the situation in this league. And look across the division, right? Year ago, the Steelers played 3 different quarterbacks. The Bengals with injuries with Joe Burrow. I know Lamar Jackson was the MVP last year. The year before, he dealt with injuries. The Browns with Deshaun Watson. You're likely going to need both guys at some point this year. So for now, I'd ride the hot hand, and I think that Fields' rushing ability helps negate some of the problems and issues you have up front. And I don't know if you guys noticed this. Late in the game, the Falcons were keeping a quarterback spy on Fields given his running ability. That takes away another defender from doing other things versus if you just have a statue back in the pocket. If you have a pure pocket passing quarterback who does not run the football. That's not Justin Fields. And I thought he did what he needed to do to win today's game. And I thought he outplayed Kirk Cousins in today's game as well. Let's get to what yins think. A lot of people weighing in the comments. Gino checking in saying TJ Watt is unstoppable. He was terrific today. TJ Watt was just absolutely terrific today. And this is a Steelers defense today. You win the turnover battle 3-0. How about total yardage? The Pittsburgh Steelers only had 270 yards of offense, 226 total yards of offense for the Falcons. Again, all the weapons, and think about the first round picks that they have on this offense. Pitts, London, Robinson. And they're able to hold each of those guys in check. The Falcons didn't score in the second half. TJ Watt, 4 tackles and a sack, 2 TFLs. And it could have been more than that if not for the penalties negated by the referees. TJ Watt was great today. TJ Watt was great today. Teresa saying there's no flag when the Falcons ripped Najee's helmet off by his face mask was bollocks. Yeah, the referees today, you're going to get some of those calls in future weeks. The Steelers, that play, the George Pickens pass interference, which was questionable. Again, I thought it was pass interference by George Pickens by the letter of the law. It stalled the drive, but I've seen receivers get away with way worse in this league. And then I Bleav it was 2 against Watt of what would have been strip sack fumbles. So, Teresa, thank you for checking in. And great point. I just thought the referees were not great in today's game. I want to check in with some other people here on what Yins thinks, where we go through the comment section. And if you like this show here on the Bleav in Steelers postgame show, you're able to leave a super chat. We're able to financially support this show. But I want to get to some comments, even if you're not able to do that. People checking in, excited about a week 1 Steelers win over the Atlanta Falcons on the road, 18-10, and what I'm going to call the field goal fest with Chris Boswell making 6 field goals today. Roro checking in saying Fields is better in shotgun. Yes, but Arthur Smith's offense dictates that you have a quarterback under center to set up play action pass. That'll get better over time. And I want to see Fields. He's got the size on 4th and short plays to be able to do a quarterback sneak. They did it a few times on 3rd and short, 4th and short situations. They didn't get it on their second to last drive when the Falcons stuffed them. To me, on that play, it looked like there was a bad exchange between Zach Frazier and Fields, and the Falcons took over, but the Falcons couldn't take advantage. Sets up Dante Jackson's interception, which helped put the game away. And Jackson almost ran it back for a touchdown, had a great return to set up favorable field position for the Steelers offense again. And you got to take advantage of that. Like, I would have loved to see the Steelers go up by 2 scores there, but hey, they're able to milk more clock. And then the Falcons had the ball with less than 30 seconds left, no timeouts, and try to move the ball on this Steelers defense. Good luck. Beanie Bishop getting a huge tackle towards the end there, only a 7-yard gain. And that was about half of Atlanta's time. And then TJ Watt with the sack to help put the game away. to help put the game away. Temple saying the Steelers need to work on the tush push. This is an element of the offense I think that you can incorporate with with Justin Fields. It's an element of the offense you can incorporate with Justin Fields, given his size at the quarterback position, versus Russell Wilson, he doesn't weigh as much, and he's also in year 13. And maybe the Steelers say, hey, we can have Fields run around today because Wilson can come back sooner rather than later. I think Wilson could have played today. I just think it's the fact of you've got injuries up front along the offensive line. You could further aggravate the injury. It's almost like a 1A, 1B when it comes to the quarterback position. Why force it? It's a bit of a homecoming for Fields as well because he's from the state of Georgia. And remember, before he transferred to Ohio State, he was a Georgia Bulldog. So I know he's got a lot of ties to the Georgia area as well. Roro checking in. I love this comment. Roro, thank you for this comment. Roro says, TJ played like he had a baby on the way. Yeah, I know the Watt family is growing. And man, if those kids are anything like their dads, I think you had 3 Watts in the NFL, TJ Watt, JJ Watt, Derek Watt. Roro, thank you for checking in. Great comment there. Great comment there. Yeah, and TJ Watt, remember, didn't play at all in the preseason. So it's like, how good is he going to be? And he's as advertised. And again, for as prolific as he was, negated by penalties. And then Boswell was the story to where just Mr. Reliable. You get him within 50 yards or even 50 plus yards, and you know that there are pretty good odds that he's going to knock it through and get you 3. You don't want to have to always rely on that. Yeah, I want to see some touchdowns, but 6 field goals today proved to be the difference. It's an old school type game today. Lifelong fan saying props to Fields, though. That is a question I have for the chat. Next week, week 2, you've got the Broncos and what's supposed to be the homecoming, right, of sorts for Russell Wilson. Who do you want to see next week? Fields or Wilson? Please let me know in the chat, and I'd love to know your reasons and rationale why. Emotionally, I would love to see Wilson play, but I don't think Fields did anything today to where said we have to bench him in favor of Wilson today. And again, it wasn't perfect early on. There were some things where it was like, oh boy, this could be a long day. I want to see touchdowns and points. But again, Fields outplayed a veteran quarterback in Kirk Cousins, who got a massive contract in the offseason. I mean, I think he was the highest paid quarterback, free agent quarterback, may I say, in the offseason. And the Falcons spent a premium on bringing him to Atlanta to try to finally get this offense right. This is the team that's supposed to win the NFC South division. And you just beat them in their home building. And you can't help but think that, does that weigh on Justin Fields' mind, knowing that this is the guy that I used to play in the NFC North division when Fields was in Chicago and Cousins was in Minnesota. And this guy gets a huge deal. And yes, he's been to the playoffs a few times, but what exactly has Kirk Cousins ever actually accomplished when it comes to postseason success? And Fields can't even find a starting job in the offseason. The Steelers trade a conditional pick for him. It'll be a 6th-round pick if it's fewer than 51% of the team snaps. If it's more than that, it'll be a 4th-round pick. You don't think this weighs on Fields' mind or a player's mind? Get out of here. Get out of here. But what I want to know in the chat is who you would like to see start next week. Lifelong fans saying Wilson next week. Would like to see, I mean, for the storyline alone, I'd like to see Wilson against the Broncos. But I think you got to start Fields again. Temple saying healthy Wilson. Fields did great, but Wilson is the starter. Simple as that. If Wilson's healthy and ready to go, okay. And I'm going to say this too. Clearly, the Steelers wanted to make Russell Wilson the starter. They named him a captain of the team. I don't think you do that. I mean, one of the quarterbacks has to be the captain. But if he's not the starter, I don't think you name him as the captain of the team, right? So we'll see and how this plays out. It's a fascinating storyline. And I think it's a good problem to have. I mean, look, you're paying both of those players, and Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, less than $5 million combined this year. So I think they're both going to get their opportunities at points this season to where can you prove that you're still capable of being a starter and getting starter money. It's a premium for good quarterback play in this league. I want to know what other things. Roro saying Fields to keep the chemistry rolling. I'm with Roro. I would start Fields next week. I would. I thought that it took the training wheels off him in the second half, Roro says. I do think that Fields adds an element to where you have to play an honest 11 on 11 against him. And I think Wilson had this ability earlier in his career in Seattle to extend plays. And like Wilson's probably better at making reads and going through his progressions and not turning the ball over than Justin Fields is at this respective point of their careers, right? But Wilson doesn't have that same mobility that he once had. And if you've got issues up front along your offensive line, is he able to get out of the pocket and escape defenders the same way that he used to be able to? The not going in for both Fields and Wilson going into this year was that they hold the ball too long and they take too many sacks in different ways, respectively, to each quarterback. But Wilson, let's get that calf right? So I'd like to see Fields. I would start Fields. Ride the hot hand and why goof up the chemistry of this team. And I can't believe I'm saying that because, again, I really thought that Wilson was going to be the starter going into this game. Thursday, we heard that the calf injury was still lingering. Like, if this was a playoff game and Wilson was the clear-cut number one, I think he could have played today. But why re-aggravate that calf injury when it's marginal, the difference between Wilson and Fields? And again, you're likely going to need both guys at some point in the 2024 season. Temple, thank you for supporting the show. Appreciate that. Temple Radcliffe checking in. Temple also saying definitely a fascinating situation between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. This is going to be the big storyline this week for the Steelers. And I get the arguments for both. The Steelers do not score a touchdown today. I think that would be the argument for Wilson, is to say, hey, this is given the same opportunities that Fields had in this game, the veteran presence that he brings would help score some touchdowns and put some points on the board, because you're not going to be able to win this style every single game. But if the Steelers avoid injuries defensively, their defensive unit was outstanding today. And the week one overreaction would be NFL's best, ? I want to see a little bit of a bigger sample size. But again, all of those first-round picks on the Falcons' offensive side of the ball, like Kirk Cousins was supposed to be the straw that stirs the drink, if you will, the guy who can help take the Falcons team over the top. That's why Arthur Smith's not the head coach after 3 consecutive 7-10 seasons. And I point back to who are his quarterbacks. And you've got the Steelers paying Justin Fields this year. Again, I mean, it's less than $5 million combined for Fields and Wilson. And then you see across the sidelines, you're paying a premium for that. I understand Kirk Cousins is coming off an Achilles injury. I understand it's week one of an 18-week season. So he's got 16 more games. But if you're a Falcons fan today and you're saying, Justin Fields outplayed our quarterback, and look at the contracts that you're paying both teams, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. My name's Mark Bergin. This is live post-game reaction of the Steelers and Falcons. Steelers come out victorious today. 18-10. 18-10. And I'll say this too, looking ahead to next week's game, I'd be surprised if Cameron Johnston could go. It looked like it was his punting leg that got injured and he limped off. It's not just the punting game, which he was going to be a clear upgrade over what the Steelers have had with Presley Harvin III the last few years. But also, how does that impact Chris Boswell's kicking ability? It didn't today. He made his last field goal, the chip shot, 6 of 6. But it's not just the punting game and be able to flip the field. It's the holding game as well, and the components of special teams that can win and lose games in this league. I could point to other examples. If you're scoreboard watching today, somehow the Chicago Bears won today. I don't think they scored an offensive touchdown. They got a special teams touchdown and a defensive touchdown and put the Titans away. So that can win and lose games. That's going to be really important. If Cameron Johnston's going to miss a few weeks. I'm not a doctor. I don't know the extent of his leg injury, but it didn't look good. And if I had to guess, you're likely going to have a different punter for week 2 against the Broncos a week from now. A week from now. And it's a big loss. I mean, to be able to flip the field, this is an element it's not flashy, but it's a very important component of football. And maybe the Steelers bring Presley Harvin back. I don't know who else is out on the free agent market right now. So keep an eye on that as well. I think it's the quarterback position who starts against Denver, and then the punting position. Then how do you try to get this offense to get into the end zone to where it's not just a field goal fest and you have to rely on Boswell over and over and over again? Boswell is one of the NFL's best. Honestly, if Justin Tucker didn't play in the division, this is a player who I think is Pro Bowl, all pro caliber when he's healthy and when he's right. And he played perhaps the best game of his career today. I mean, 3 field goals from 50-plus yards to where it's like, as soon as he lines up, it's like money. And it's like, is he going to have to kick with his opposite foot with the league mandate that for how automatic he was today? Joking there and being facetious, but that's how talented I thought he was today. And I thought that he was terrific. He gets my game ball, and TJ Watt's not far after that. Checking in with one more comment, seeing a few more comments. Darth Sniper, let's get to this one and I'll get to this other comment saying Fields left some open guys. Watch the all 22. We'll show it. He had no turnovers, and that's a huge deal for them. Amen. That was his biggest criticism coming into the Steelers is too many turnovers. And in that first drive alone, he had a few missed passes. He missed Van Jefferson, threw Najee Harris to the wrong shoulder, but no turnovers for Justin Fields. More often than not, I'm going to take that from Justin Fields. Darth Sniper, thank you for checking in. And another comment saying, Mark, I'm a Bears fan and such. I was wishing nothing but the best for Fields after finding he was taking over for Wilson. I'm glad he got the win today. Yeah, I'll take a win. I will take a win any way you can get it. Lifelong fan asking, I'm wondering how long Johnston will be out. We'll keep an eye on that. And who the Steelers would bring in to replace him as a punter and a placeholder in the kicking game. Lifelong fan 07 also saying game ball should go to Boswell. Agreed there. My name is Mark Bergin. This has been a live post-game reaction. Steelers victorious today. Take 1-0 any way that you can get it. Not always the flashiest. We'll be back this week previewing the Steelers and Broncos. Back-to-back road games for the Steelers to open the 2024 season. Going to try to get Ike Taylor back on the pod here this week. He's been very busy with his scouting responsibilities for the team. Can't wait to see what his thoughts and reactions were from this game. And then hopefully get a guest here to preview the Steelers matchup against the Denver Broncos. That's kind of the roadmap here on Bleav in Steelers this upcoming week. I want to thank all of you, the viewers and listeners of the Bleav in Steelers show, for helping make this possible. I want to thank the presenting sponsor of today's show, betonline.ag. If you enjoyed listening to this show, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. That's Bleav in Steelers. And on YouTube, if you're not already, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. My name is Mark Bergin. Steelers win today, 18-10 against the Atlanta Falcons. I'll see you later this upcoming week. Until then, take care. So long, everybody.